Welcome, one and all, to Superhero Stuff You Should Know. This is the Ben Man, and with me, as usual, is...
Andrew.
Nice.
That's it.
That's the name for this week.
It's one of those weeks. The heat's getting to me, Ben.
The Andrew Knight is with us.
I was thinking about that. I was just like, I've probably done that before.
You probably have, yeah. I think so, too.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments section which one. Homework for our fans. Dig into the backlog.
I wonder if there's somebody that's keeping track of the trivia for the show.
Yeah, so, yeah, but for those who didn't guess already, yes, we are going into the concept art for The Dark Knight since we covered Batman Begins last week. Anyway, since Nolan is coming back with Oppenheimer, and yeah, we're just continuing the concept art train since we finished with the 90s Batman stuff, and we even did Man of Steel, but we hadn't revisited the Dark Knight trilogy. So,
okay.
We have stuff pulled up by Dan here, thanks to the art and making of the Dark Knight trilogy. And we can already see a couple things that are unique to the Dark Knight. The first one at the top left is looks like a grapnel gun design for Batman Begins, a close-up version of what we talked about last week.
Okay.
So, kind of like what I was talking about, where the front cylinder looks a little different. But everything else seems to be from the Dark Knight. So we've got a version of the Bat Pod, as well as what looks like some art or concept art of the what holds the suit in the Bat Bunker. So that's kind of a nice introduction to what we've got going on. But yeah, we will be diving through a lot of the other parts of the Dark Knight concept art. Specifically, there's some Gotham City stuff, but there's the Dark Knight suit itself, and of course the Joker, who's the star of the show here, of course. So we'll be diving into that. And then the second half will be a little bit more towards like different locales or concept arts for specific scenes that come up, some of which look a little different from what we saw in the movie. But like we talked about last time, a lot of the Nolan concept art stuff, or the concept art done for the Nolan movies, is not too far off from what we got in the actual movie, but we did try to find a few things that are a little different in there that'd be interesting to go over. So here we go.
Cool. Sounds good.
Gotham City. To be honest, I was a little surprised there was even concept art for Gotham City, considering that it's so famously shot on location in Chicago. But looks like there's some of it here, and you can kind of see it in the a little bit towards the right center, but it looks as if you can kind of see the monorail from Batman Begins. So yeah, we've got the monorail over here and some of the buildings that we got, but you kind of see the monorail a little more closely in this other panoramic shot. You can kind of see it a little bit in the center as well as on the right here. And I wish there was more of it. I know we had a comment saying that you can kind of see it in some of the shots in The Dark Knight, but for something that was such a big set piece in Begins, it would have been cool if there was a little more of it in the other two movies.
It's interesting. Well, I guess no. He did like dusk, dawn, and night here. I guess I don't know. That's kind of cool.
It does kind of look like that, yeah.
And then it's just like, you want me to draw Chicago? All right. I'm sure that's how it went down.
Usually Chicago with a monorail in the middle of it. That doesn't show up much in the final movie. But
all right, got it.
That's what we got. So that's what we got for Gotham. And then the other locale that we've got here, of course, is the Bat Bunker, which, we're not fans of. But it is pretty close to what we got in the movie anyway, with the big lighting, the lit-up ceiling, the Batsuit container that kind of rises up from the floor, the Bat computer, and we see the tumbler here.
This looks exactly like what we got, really, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, this looks like a set photo, not concept design.
Indeed. Yeah. So it could be that they already knew what. It's a combination of stuff, because isn't this like an actual location? They film a bunch of music videos.
Yes.
In this garage.
Yeah.
So I feel like they kind of knew already what it was, and so they sort of mocked up what everything else was going to be. Tumblr was already in the previous movie, right? So then it was kind of just about the Bat computer and the suit.
This location is in L.A., right? Not Chicago?
I think so, yeah.
Right?
Actually.
This is one of the few times they're in L.A. for the movie?
I haven't tried to seek it out, but I think it is.
Not to know about that location as much as possible.
I've sought out the Batman 66 Batcave or the Bronson Cave.
Well, that's different.
There, but because that's an actual cave. But this one, I'm like, I'd have to look it up. Actually, let us know in the comments section
I think it's downtown LA, but I could be wrong. We could
Yeah.
Google it, but I don't want to do that right now on air. So.
It's probably one that you have to like reserve time in too. You can't just like walk in either.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is a shooting location now. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the concept art for the Bat Cave, or the Bat Bunker, really, which we rated as the goose egg among the Bat Caves in our ranking of the Bat Caves and stuff. But we know it's not really supposed to be the Bat Cave. It's his temporary housing until Wayne Manor is rebuilt in these movies. So moving further, one of the major components that got changed for this movie was, of course, the Batsuit. And so we kind of have a preliminary sketch here, which is close again to what we ended up getting. So Dan had some notes here based off of what was in the art and the making of the Dark Knight trilogy, saying that the suit is called for the molding and casting of more than 100 individual sections. So like you see these little, segments here, compared to the simpler silicone and neoprene Batsuit from the previous film. Batsuit was designed for the Dark Knight based off real-life body armor and constructed atop an underlayer of mesh, which we can see, in between the segments, that made it more flexible and breathable than the original version. Though I would also argue it gives him a million different pieces of vulnerability, but that's kind of what they went with.
They wanted flexibility, maybe, I guess. He wanted to turn his head. I don't know. It's crazy that there's like 100 molds for this suit. Because I've seen this process up close with, other movies, and I've never seen it with like that, with like 100 for a chess piece or something.
Yeah,
that's just wild to me. I guess it's all those individual little armor pieces that they just sew on to armor or something, to Under Armour, but it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's because of when we look at it, it makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't think about it too much until like when it's brought up. I'm like, oh, that does. You would have to do all that, but yeah, it's a lot of. It's more trouble than what it was worth, in my opinion. But it did create the effect that they wanted, so more power to them. Let's go into some of the other stuff. So here's kind of what it is without the cape. You can still kind of tell though that that's the Begins cowl. They took a picture from the Begins. The Begins promo and kind of pasted that onto what the mock-up was for everything else on here. So we've got this and more of a full body look here. Ass area looks kind of weird, gotta admit.
Well, I'd honestly let that slide.
You don't see much of it anyway because of the cape.
Yeah,
so I think that's what they figured.
Don't think it's that. I wouldn't focus on it too much.
But yeah, it's pretty close to what we got. And let's do one more here. Again, another Begins cowl promo pic over here. But other than that,
looks like pretty much what we got. This must be pretty late in the game. Concept art.
Yeah, I mean, look, they clearly knew what they were looking for from the beginning on this. So that's it's kind of why a lot of the stuff when we look at it in the concept art stuff, it's like, well, they did it. It's what it was, and I think it's from Nolan onwards. It kind of feels like that, like in the 90s, we kind of saw some insane shit with like all the different concepts they had for how things would look, and now it's more or less close. But I think really when we get to the Joker, we can kind of see the differences or the sort of like brainstorming that went on. But until then, we kind of have two different looks of the back of the Batsuit. Kind of this almost looks like extra spine armor on the one on the left.
It's kind of cool, actually, but I mean, I guess they need it especially if the cape is going to cover that part of it. But it just seems like not an afterthought, but almost an afterthought.
Yeah,
the back of the suit.
I'm not sure which one they went with. I'd have to look at the suit. Yeah, I'm not sure what this looks like behind it.
They're both fine.
Yeah. They both work for what it is. And then here's kind of the thing that's on his back, the folded cape, in the Hong Kong sequence, and how that would look. Where it kind of looks like a backpack until he jumps off.
Yeah.
So that pretty much is how it is over there. And then more concept art over here.
That was one of the first times to see Batman operate outside of Gotham in a movie, right?
In live action. I think that's
live action.
That's the very first time, because when he's traveling in the previous movie, he's still Bruce Wayne. He's not Batman yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think some of that's also the influence of like the the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams era where he's like traveling around. Some of that is
Yeah.
because of Ra's al Ghul, but some of that is just Bruce Wayne's he's a successful businessman and celebrity, so naturally he's like going around to different sections of the Wayne Foundation in different areas of the world, and so it makes sense, and that's kind of exactly how they gave him an excuse to be there, with all the dealings between Wayne Enterprises and Lau over there.
I still think like if they wanted more content for Max, right? Do the Bruce Wayne the Legend Continues, like that section of Batman Begins made into a series, like every episode or season, or I don't know, like you see him go through his different senseis before he's Batman. I know it's like a Gotham type idea once again, but
yes, but it'd be around the world as opposed to inside Gotham City.
yeah, it would definitely be like a prequel series that would be him traveling mostly through Asia, which would be fucking sick. But
It would be.
You
could do that with the DCU,
different
because
temples and shit. Yeah, right.
yeah, like Brave and the Bold is set so far into his career with Damian that like I imagine there probably wouldn't need to be a ton of like crossover that much in the timeline. You can still get a much younger actor to play young Bruce, right? And then you have the mentor figures who probably aren't going to play much of a role when Damian's, Robin. So you could do it and have it in the same continuity. The only person who kind of have to be the same is Alfred.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I
just
don't
think
really
like,
need him that much.
like Gotham was a fine idea, but for my money, I'd love to see this show more probably.
Yeah, it'd be great. And Gotham sort of leaves off in like the beginning of the finale with Bruce about to start off going around the world. So it's like it was all the stuff leading up to this stuff.
Exactly. You could make it maybe loosely based. I don't know if I would connect it exactly to Gotham, but if people want to put that in their head canon, I think it'd be fine. But like I would make it definitely like the tone they shot in Batman Begins would be not a bad tone for like Nolan's type of tone for our show we're kind of cooking up right now.
Just with the different mentors.
It's just like one of the coolest, like turn the training montage into a show and them traveling through Asia with like Shaolin temples and ninja temples and all the fucking temples to the. I guess there's you would part of the problem they would have to deal with is like not make it too over romanticize the Orient, the Asia. But
I was thinking more of the fact that it could just get a little old if it's like one temple after another and the same, more martial arts training could get old if they don't spice it up with different like storylines in the separate temples.
Well, true, and plus they would need, I would say also to break it up, like find like the Batmobile driver teacher. That could be somebody like in France or whatever the fuck. Like it could be a different locale, and then it would be like a Bourne Identity meets young Bruce kind of thing. I mean, this fucking shit writes itself. Are you kidding me? Come on.
And there's also like the training to be a detective, which we've never really seen. We've seen so much, already in these adaptations of him learning. All right, like here's how you learn ninjutsu. I'm like, okay, cool. But then, like, what about like the actual Ducard storyline, where he's the one who taught him detective work, or Harvey Harris or something?
It would be so cool too. I know we've strayed from our topic, but this is a cool topic, cool side topic. I think that like it would show character moments too, because he's known to kind of self-teach all the time. Like he's always teaching himself in his own study, Bruce Wayne. But at what point does he feel like he can't do this by himself? He can't teach himself. He does need a sensei or a teacher. And that would show like maybe some of his natural shortcomings more. Like sometimes they write in that he's not great with guns. At least at first, like I don't know, like what was he not great at first with detective work, but with this teacher he became fucking awesome at in preparation to be Batman, like what are the natural shortcomings that he gets over to become the Bat? I think all that shit's great. It would be a great show.
Yeah. Mindset stuff too. You know,
Right,
like training
right.
the mind, the fortitude, you know, the spirit of the bat that he's known for. Like that's stuff that, you know, I wouldn't expect him to have the moment that his parents dropped dead in that alley. He would need to develop that.
Yeah, yes, I think so. And like a little bit of martial arts fantasy thrown in there, you know, like
Hmm.
the being able to. I mean, dude, I mean, something must be going on with the Shaolin monks because they the Rage Against the Machine fucking cover. The guy sets himself on fire and doesn't
Hmm.
budge. Like
Yeah.
these, at least some of these Shaolin monks have learned to really tap into the mind in ways that most people haven't because the proof
Hmm.
is in the fucking pudding when they set their fucking self on fire and fucking they don't budge. What? This is a fucking
It's
superpower.
insane. Yeah.
They've learned there's something going on there, dude, but
Hmm.
I don't know what it is. I haven't trained at the Shaolin Temple, but I just
Neither have I.
I always wonder like, you know, what have they unlocked in the brain, you know,
Hmm.
via the like Eastern philosophy training, and that could be in the show, I think, as long as it doesn't, you know, go into anything that's problematic, but it would be cool exploration.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to see that and stuff, and you know,
Yeah.
Nolan would definitely have been the one to pave the way in live action for that
Yeah.
that type of stuff. And like we talked about before, The Dark Knight does kind of pave the way for Batman being in another country, you know, in the suit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, picking somebody up to take him back to Gotham. So that's what we got here, and then a little bit more, and of course they had to do the concept art of him turning his head. He's looking up in the center here. And the cowl itself, now that it's more attached, or a little bit less of a Photoshop from the Begins cowl, we can kind of see the cowl look a little closer to how it's going to look in the final film. So
Okay.
this is what we got for the Dark Knight suit. I kind of wish that there was like other variations, obviously, because you know how I feel about the suit, but it looks like, you know, they got what they wanted from the very beginning, which, you know, more power to them.
It's funny because you know, it's one of the best Batman movies, but you know, according to you, and I don't disagree. Like it's the worst. It's one of the worst
It's
Batman
one of the worst
suits.
Yes.
Although, dude, you know, I know it's old hat, but like some of the Schumacher suits, the Batman and Robin ones, man, I probably think the Dark Knight one's better than those.
Yeah, but are we talking about the chrome one that Clooney's wearing at the end, or are we talking
Yeah,
about
that
his
chrome one. That one's
The
worse.
chrome one's definitely worse, but Bruce is in the Dark Knight suit for 2 full movies, as opposed to just the third act of one.
I know, but we're not talking about like how much has been in the movie. I'm just I'm just
I know,
talking
I know.
I'm just talking about the
From a
design aesthetics.
standpoint,
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
I know. But I'm just saying, I had to tolerate that shit for like maybe 15 minutes of Dark Knight. I mean, the
Right.
Batman and Robin, as opposed to full movies.
At least the Skechers shoe is encased in a good movie though.
Yes. So
So there is that.
call back to check out the Dark Knight versus the Comics series if you're wondering why he referenced Skechers. That's because I call the suit the black tennis shoe,
Black tennis shoe,
because
yeah.
it looks like a shoe to me.
It does. I definitely see where you're coming from.
The segmentation with the mesh behind it, and again, I'm just like, look, people are just like, well, it's functional. I'm just like, dude, he's more vulnerable than ever. He gets flat out stabbed by Talia right in the middle of those segments in the third one. Like that's not
He's
functional
always
at all.
he gets stabbed by fucking Catwoman in Returns.
That too, yeah.
Always let
But at
women
least
stab
like
him.
she found, like, it was less obvious where that vulnerability was. Here it's just like, well, just look at him.
Yeah.
Just go right in between.
You know what? That's another good argument for cloth over armor, because then you can't see where the armor is breaking.
Yeah, I agree.
God damn it. That's another great idea. You would have to be very close and kind of feel it out or study where, you know, like where you know, study it for a while to see it through the cloth, which is like already way too much for a 2-hour movie if you're doing that. So like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, nobody's going to end up doing that. Or have a chance.
yes. So yeah, that's another great reason for that actually.
Let's call Muschietti. Let's put
get
that
him
in
on the
Brave and the
phone.
Bold. Yeah,
Get him on the phone.
we know how to save Brave and the Bold.
You just call us.
So, yeah, obviously the next part we got to talk about is the Joker himself. Pictured here with the costume and some of the concept art behind her is Lindy Hemming, who did the costume design for this movie. And it says that in the notes that Dan gathered, she wanted to avoid retro dressing the villain. Retro dressing as in, I guess, making him look outdated. And instead wanted to portray him as a, quote, young and very trendy guy. Interesting.
Okay.
So I don't know if that necessarily was what we thought of when we first saw the Joker. It's like, oh, he's a young, trendy guy.
You ever seen the interview of Tom Waits on Australian TV?
Yeah, the one that everyone cites as the influence.
Dude, it must be. Usually I see videos like that, I'm like, you guys are pulling my leg. But this one, dude, and plus it's Australian, Heath Ledger Australian, like there must be something going on there.
And they were in Heath Ledger's last movie together. Tom Waits is in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus with Heath Ledger.
There you go. Maybe he met him like at the same time he was developing the character when he was in that Joker motel. You know about that, right? Mm-hmm. He rented out a fucking room to damn near go crazy, becoming the Joker, keeping a Joker diary. I think he did that too. It's insane, man.
Yeah, and it also sounds like a lot of fun. It sounded like he had a lot of fun with that too, with exploring, because there's a lot of fun to be had as an actor to explore different characters and stuff. And I know that he was drawing a lot from what we were seeing in the Grant Morrison comics, and it sounded like he really enjoyed it.
Do you think that role was so stressful that led to him worsening his drug habit? Just speculation here, guys. Speculation.
I feel like that's exaggerated, based off of what he said and what people said of how he was like on the set. Now, it could be, if there was pressure, I think the pressure was more of like, you're the Joker, you're the first live-action Joker since Jack fucking Nicholson.
So you think that him playing the Joker had nothing to do with it, and it was completely just accidental? Well, I know it was accidental, but there was like no ramp up or anything?
No.
You ever looked into this?
I've looked into it enough based off of what people said and what he was saying. Now, mind you, it could just be a case where he's just really good at hiding his pain, but if there was pain there, I wouldn't associate it purely with him being method acting as the Joker so much as, what was going on in his life. He was him and Michelle Williams, I believe, were like on the outs. At one point, they had a daughter together. Like, to me, that's way more. If I'm in Heath Ledger's shoes, I can't speak for the guy, but like that's way more, of a dark place to be in than playing the Joker.
Okay, yeah. So, to like, this is going to be a little bit different, but maybe a little bit similar. So, I went to a Christian high school growing up. And this guy was playing Satan in a play for a long time, like several months. And I remember him saying it took a real toll on him and like made him feel real like darker all the time because, he's playing fucking Satan. And whenever the news about Ledger came out, that's kind of what I thought of. I thought maybe, Joker is a similar character to Satan in a lot of ways. And did that upset his already fragile mental state more, worsen it? But you're saying no.
I don't think so, considering how
not.
We've had so many different Jokers who, things have been fine.
That is true. You're right. It's just so. It's also. Go ahead.
The actor who played Satan too probably played Satan for a much longer period of time than Ledger played the Joker.
Maybe.
Because this is. Yeah, this is a big movie, but, he's not in every single scene. You know, he did have to shoot parts, and I'm sure, it wasn't, a short shoot, but the amount of time he had to play the Joker, actually be on and stuff is probably a less period of time than the guy you're talking about.
Okay. I was just, the media kind of spun it that way, too, and all that. And it just sucks, because Ledger would have rivaled Brad Pitt and anybody out there. If he had stayed alive longer. He was skyrocketing, you know.
I just think that it's a lot of media spin on a character who, has been played fine, by everyone else.
That's true.
Why Ledger specifically? If anything, when I hear that, it's kind of spun up to make it seem like the Joker is this curse, but to me it kind of seems almost, there's nothing against you, Andrew, but it almost seems a little bit insulting to Ledger. to me, because I'm just
yeah.
like, well, then it makes it sound like he's so fragile he couldn't handle it. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I don't think that's actually what happened.
I think it's I mean, he probably had he had some prescription drugs. I don't know. I'm talking way out of my
Well,
ass.
he did die from the accidental overdose of the pills, but again, I would say like so much that probably had to do with what was going on in his personal life, not because of the role.
Right.
He just happened to play this role, and again, like he was done with the role when he died. He was on the Terry Gilliam movie.
That's true.
Where he was also playing a villain. So if anything, you could say that it was that role, because the character he played in Dr. Parnassus is not a good guy either. The character he plays in Parnassus is like a con artist dude, and also it's been a while since I've seen it, but he's definitely not a good guy in that one.
I never saw that. I just heard he was going to change because they had to, but the changing of the roles and all that, it seemed like kind of a mess.
Yeah. So I would say that a lot of the stuff, like if there's pressure for that role, it was probably like, hey, you're the first Joker since Jack Nicholson. Don't fuck it up. Like, I think that was probably it and combined with that, but I don't think it was like, oh, it was such a dark headspace, because I'm just like, most of this shit was in the script.
I get
most
it.
of that stuff was there.
I guess if just after all these years, I'm still sort of unpacking his death. I never, but at the same time, I probably haven't done as much research as you have into it, but I still think about it from time to time.
Look, there probably still might be some sides of the story I haven't heard yet. Like maybe some people in the comment section are going to be like, "No, you're wrong," and people were saying he was this disturbed and that. But if that's the case, then that's the case, and I'll correct it later. But from what I've heard, you got Michael J. White on set saying how like great it was to work with him, and how he wasn't in character the whole time. He was back to being Heath when the cameras turned off and stuff. And he kind of showed up. He still showed up for like the days where he wouldn't be on camera, so that people could react to him. Which sounds great, but that sounded more like he was doing that as a dedicated actor, not because he was so into the role that like he couldn't get out of it.
Right.
Like that was what he was doing as a favor to the other actors, so that he could get a better performance out of everybody, not because he couldn't escape this role, which is I feel like a lot of media spin.
I think the part of that is the sensitive artist stereotype.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's people think, well, he's an amazing actor, but a lot of amazing actors and artists of any stripe are very sensitive people, and this brought him into such a negative headspace. That was kind of the spin, and then on the media spin, on top of me seeing my friend talk about that in high school, I just had all these things in my head.
Well, you're not the only one, There's a lot of people who feel like convinced that this is the role that killed him, but I'm kind of like, well, why is it this one time that this person plays it? Like, I get it. It's a very, it's a unique version of Joker, but like it's a version of Joker that I don't think is like, it's scary for the movie, but it's not like so fucking disturbing that like I could see that happen. Like Hannibal Lecter is still more disturbing. A lot of the the actual serial killers people have played are actually disturbing. Like Ledger's Joker is scary, but also really, really fun at the same time.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm personally not convinced. But again, let us know in the comments if I'm just talking out of my ass on this. But that's personally what I've found.
No, you're probably right. I just like thinking about it.
So let's look into influences on this Joker then. So there's a lot of stuff that's similar when we look at the concept art, but Joker might be the one where like we see different stuff, still with the DNA of what we would get, but with different stuff. So first off, let's look at some of the early sketches and influences. So this is one that kind of looks a little close to what we would end up doing. You kind of see a little bit of Heath in there. You've got the long curly hair. You've got the it's kind of hard to tell if there's scars there, but you can definitely tell like the red lips extend past the lips themselves. The teeth look kind of dirty. You've got kind of the black around the eyes. But the costume is slightly different too. Notice he's got this big green scarf.
Yeah.
Could even be an ascot or a cravat.
Yes, cravat. He's so twisted, man. In this is it's pretty cool. I like this one.
Yeah, this is cool. Let's see. The next one, though, is a shot that Dan got. I think this is from the art and making of the Dark Knight trilogy, of the influences. So we have pictures of Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, who has been, like, obviously somebody did the red lips on him on the picture on the bottom left, as well as completely Jokerized him in the center there.
This is cool. Yeah, I didn't know they did this with Johnny Rotten, but I can actually kind of see this now. So we had punk rock Joker, and then we had grunge Batman with Pattinson.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's
cool.
true. So yeah, this is the I guess the underrated or underappreciated music influences on on this franchise, right? With this stuff.
That's
Because
awesome,
of that,
man.
you've got this this punk look for this that they were going for. So that's mainly the photographs we see here. But on the top left, we see what looks like a painting. Now this painting, we have a close up here. This is from Francis Bacon, and it's called Velázquez's Portrait of Pope Innocent X from 1953. And apparently this was what they used to quote unquote find a common language for defining the Joker. The art of Francis Bacon was also kind of cited by Heath Ledger as well. And Batman fans should be familiar with Francis Bacon because Bacon also did the painting Figure with Meat, which is the same painting that Joker saves from Bob's knife in Batman '89. So
I like
Joker
this one,
liking
Bob.
Francis
Or
Bacon.
what does he say?
Yeah, I kind of like this one, Bob.
Yeah.
Leave it.
Oh
So,
man.
Joker
I
liking
remember,
Francis
as a
Bacon
kid,
has
I was
been
like,
there.
he likes that painting because that painting is also evil.
Yes,
That's every kid watching this was thinking the same thing.
that's pretty much the main meaning.
That painting is evil. But dude, that painting about Pope Innocent is actually pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Very evil looking. This is getting more into heavy metal, honestly, and leaving punk. But I mean, it's cool to see, how they're trying to communicate visual styles. Because you can say it with a million words all you want, but just show them a fucking painting. I think it's cool. I didn't know this, so this is really cool.
It's a great tidbit. It's a great connection to '89 as well. Probably not
Yeah.
intentional to '89, but still.
Yeah.
Moving further, we got some more. These are more full body versions of what we saw earlier of the Joker. Now in different outfits. We got one with a green vest and pinstriped pants on the left, and then we carry over the pinstripe pants to the one on the right. But that's the one with the green cravat.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
some
cool.
early
Pretty
stuff.
close.
Yeah, pretty
Get
close. I
closer.
think the black around the eyes isn't as prominent in these. It's not as evident that he's got those raccoon eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Now these ones look closer to Heath in terms of Heath, the individual, not him in the movie. You can kind of see it in his face a little more, but they're playing around with like different concepts. So the hair's completely different. It's all spiky. Again, we're going back to the Johnny Rotten influence.
Yeah, punk.
Let's see.
Punk Joker. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you don't really see a scarred smile. It looks like they've got, especially the one on the right, we got something that looks like it's kind of foreshadowing of what we would get with Joaquin Phoenix, with sort of the eye makeup being like the triangles under the eyes, and so the red nose to kind of be like the clown red nose, which is a cool
Right.
concept. I think if you're going to play around with the Joker's look, adding different clown elements is still something that's a valid take.
It is actually, yeah. And what would be, the nose could be something, dangerous too. I don't know what it would be, but like all of this clown shit is like has some sort of killer thing behind it, like the flower, with the acid that spits out of it. I don't know what it would be because it's on his fucking face, but there could be something.
If it's like a removable one, then that could be like some sort of like grenade thing.
Yeah, and he's just wearing a grenade on his face because he's an insane person.
The edgelords will say that it's blood. He dipped his nose in blood, but
Yeah.
I don't need that.
I don't know, man. Something about this kind of thing reminds me of like the Lost Boys too. I don't know what it
A
is.
little bit, yeah. He kind of looks
Right?
like Kiefer Sutherland in The Lost Boys.
Yeah, right. And that
The
was
big
a little
jacket, spiked hair.
because punk '80s, and they weren't really punk in that. They were more like, what was that look? Just '80s rocker look,
Yeah.
glam metal.
He doesn't have a like the suit tie type of look on the one on the right. He's kind of got like just a green sweater there, which I think is
Yeah.
interesting. They still went with a more traditional suit type thing in the final film.
Johnny Rotten's a great pull though, for sure. Mm-hmm. Because that's all about chaos and shit. So yeah, that's awesome.
And then we can kind of see the knife, a big knife that he's carrying on the one on the right.
That's awesome.
So I like these. Yeah, I like these a lot.
Yeah.
This is a digital concept art of Joker walking away from the hospital explosion, but it's a little interesting because of the fact that this is kind of Heath without the clown makeup. But I think if you zoom in a little more, it's kind of hard to tell. But I'm pretty sure he still has the scars there. I don't think there's anything that was like how the scene was supposed to look. I think they're just kind of seeing, okay, it's Joker walking out of a hospital explosion. Let's see how it looks like. And, before they did, unfortunately, I don't have any concept art for Nurse Joker, guys. I just have regular Joker. But this is the closest we got.
That was one of the best get-ups, dude.
Yeah. Let me see. This is also in the Dark Knight production art and shooting script book, which I had. I got that summer of the movie because I felt like I had to. And let me see if I can find that specific shot in there as well, because it'll give me a closer look at the scars. But it's interesting to see this sort of type of digital art where it's like it's a combination of photographs, but clearly has been messed around with. They put Heath in like some of the makeup tests, it looks like, in this photo on top of like the body with the purple suit walking out.
It wasn't like it's like it in the corner as well in that last one, like the hospital's kind of going in a corner behind them. But I think what they shot was a little bit more head on, which is the right move.
Yeah, I think. In a different building, I think, or maybe this is based off the building just from a different angle.
Possibly. Yeah. But he really did blow up like a building, right? Because that wasn't CG, right?
Yeah, so just like how we were joking last week about how, Nolan's just setting off nuclear bombs for Oppenheimer because there's no CG. Yeah,
unbelievable, dude.
Heath Ledger actually was blowing up a hospital that he was walking out of, and there was a delay. Apparently, the real story is that there was a delay in the follow-up explosion, so Heath had to kind of. Heath and I think Nolan came up with the whole thing of like it doesn't work, and he's just like, moving his hands around and stuff until it does, and that stuff. So like which is a great shot. It's another part that adds so much to the performance.
Incredible, dude. And, Morrison talks about like whenever he wrote Arkham Asylum, it was one of the first times the Joker ever cross-dressed, or maybe the first.
Because he's got the high heels. Yeah,
high heels and Madonna pointy boobs, or no?
He wanted to put that in, but they didn't.
Oh, right.
That in the final comic.
Okay, yes, but and then he said he felt a little vindicated seeing Nurse Joker in the Dark Knight.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that too. Yeah, I need to look back at the Arkham. I have the anniversary edition of Arkham Asylum, A Serious House, Serious Earth with it's got the pencils of Joker wearing the Madonna outfit.
Okay, yeah.
So that's like the closest thing.
That's what I'm thinking of
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, good callback. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
This is another one that people have called the Elijah Wood Joker because it kind of looks like that. But I think it's supposed to be. Now I'm looking at it. It almost looks like it's. Okay, now I know what this is. I think they photoshopped the face of Ichi the Killer. And put it on
really?
that. That's because if you cover it up, if you look purely at the eyes down to the chin, you can kind of see that it could just be that they put the guy's face there.
I actually have never seen Ichi the Killer, but I've heard it's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I've heard it's like insane, and I'd like to see it. I just haven't gotten around to it just yet.
Same here. Let us know in the comments if you guys recommend it. But yeah, I know people were pointing to that one too when they're just like they got scars, and like the first promo picture of Ledger 2 was like that close up of his face with the scars, and he looked like he had like pasta sauce smeared on his lips was kind of the joke among some of the fans I remember online. But it's a similar type of like close up, like extreme close up shot on his face. So I think that might be where the face comes from on this Joker. So again, like it's more the scars are a little bit more emphasized as scars, a little bit less of the red paint, a little bit less of the black paint around the eyes, and the hair is all different now. Again, going back to the Johnny Rotten influence, I think before they decided on the long curly hair.
More punk rock kind of hair for sure.
Yeah, And he's got the full purple suit here, as opposed to in the movie where he's in the vest at this point.
Right.
And then we've got, these are creepy as fuck. These are from Rob Bliss, and we're looking at ones where you can't even see his eyes. In these, they're like hollow. This looks like something out of a horror movie, just with like Joker hair on the top two.
Dude, honestly, I would prefer this look over the Batman Joker, like the severe kind of scarring. I would prefer, this whole look is better than the look we had in Pattinson one. No offense to anybody that might have worked in that movie, but
I think of a lot of the fans, at least our fans, would agree on that. Because I mean, look, I'm not a fan of the scarred Joker look in like just across the board. But I do think Ledger's final look in the movie is way better than what Barry Keoghan's wearing in that scene from the Batman that got deleted.
Yeah.
So like I'm just like, well, if you are going to have scarring, the less scarring, the better. So I would prefer this. I think some people did point back to this when that scene got released, online with the Joker and Arkham and stuff. It's like, oh, it's kind of like this. I'm just like, kind of, except even more fucked up than what was in this concept art from Rob Bliss.
Yeah, that one had warts or whatever, didn't it? And this one is just scars.
It's just the mouth. Yeah.
It's just the mouth. But, this is so scary. There's no way this could be funny, right? Like the Joker needs to kind of walk that line of funny and scary, and this guy is just straight up fucking scary as shit. Which it looks fucking awesome, but I don't know.
If this was a horror movie villain, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. But as the Joker, again, when I saw the design for this, my big fear going into this was just like, oh, they went all edgelord Joker and shit. And it's all going to be about him. He's only really going to be laughing about the suffering of others as he's going to do fucked up shit. And then, it was such a refreshing thing actually sitting in the theater and being able to laugh. And kind of feeling a little guilty about laughing because it was kind of fucked up. All the stuff about the magic trick with a pencil, and then he's like, ta-da, and you laugh.
Love that scene.
It's perfect Joker, right? Because it's like you laugh, but you think, you're kind of fucked up too for laughing because a guy just got a pencil through the eye.
You think you can just walk in here and steal all of our money? Yeah.
Yes.
Just the way he even says yeah in that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, so good.
It is an underrated part of performance that's universally praised is the humor, the comedic timing of that. I think they in some ways learned the wrong lessons from this one with the Jared Leto version. And, I know Barry Keoghan only had one or two scenes in the Batman, but they were kind of emphasizing he's a freak, he's scary, but, Leto was never really funny, and neither was Keoghan. They just tried to go more into the freak scary stuff, but the reason why Ledger is so great to me is because of that balance of the scary and the funny.
Oh yes, definitely.
And
it's the role of a lifetime. It was so we were witnessing absolute greatness on screen. It's no wonder he overshadowed Batman. It was just you can't help it. You can't help it with something like that. It was so incredible. I remember just feeling in the theater, especially the first time out of 4 times I saw it, was I was just like, I haven't gotten that feeling too much in the theater where it's like the crackerjack feeling of a great ending, but just from a performance alone, just on the edge of my seat, just because of how juicy his evilness is. It was great. I loved the Joker in this movie, man. And you're right. You're absolutely right that you need the humor mixed in with the horrible.
I think that's what makes it even more effective too, from a personal audience standpoint, because he makes you laugh, and you laugh at kind of some of the fucked up things, and then when he starts talking about the dark side and how easy it is to go to the dark side, you'll feel that because he's already brought that out of you in the movie.
Oh yeah. Well, Joker's the ultimate nihilist, right? He's nothing matters anymore, so why not just laugh at it? You know, I think that's the ultimate underpinning there, at least in the modern incarnation of the Joker. And it does seem like he does hint at being the ultimate nihilist in The Dark Knight, and burning money, etc. And what he says to fucking Two-Face, no one bats an eye. Almost all of his lines are just really great.
Yeah. So we have a close-up look. I mean, not close-up, but like a more full-bodied look on one of the Jokers. There. This one now they colored the hair green. Notice that it's not really green looking in the one on the bottom left, but now it's green. This
right,
one, where
yeah.
they put it on there. Again, I like what they got in the final movie better, because this is a little bit too horror movie stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
still nothing compared to the one in The Batman, but still,
Yeah.
they're experimenting with stuff. But I am glad that they preserve the purple suit, because I could easily imagine a version of this where he's just in like a black suit and stuff to make it even more edgelord and dark. And it's just, it's a blessing that they had, they stayed true to what they could with the humor as well as the purple suit and just the colors stuff, because they could have fucked around with that too.
They could have. I think, they could be thinking too. I mean, they're trying to wrap their head around it. They don't know what he's going to look like in the concept design phase, right? It's what they're trying to figure out. And like, they might even, it's possible, at least I'll say this, it's possible that they knew they weren't going to go with this exactly, but they wanted to see what would happen if you dialed up menacing all the way.
Right.
And then maybe we'll take some elements from that and put it into a scene where he does need to be scary and not funny. Or a moment in a scene where it needs to be scary and not funny. You know what I mean?
Right.
At least we've seen this dial pushed all this way, and then we'll, take what we think is best from that, I think that's kind of the thinking process behind a lot of this.
Yeah, definitely. And then this last shot before we go to the break is the interrogation scene where things look a little different, Clearly it's art, and not the photograph from the thing. Bale's, again, Batman cowl is from Begins here, placed on the art version of the Dark Knight suit. And then, Joker is in the full purple getup, and here it looks like he's wearing a bow tie as well on that. But they have, like, it doesn't quite look like how he looks like in the movie, but he looks close enough. You've got the long green hair, you've got the black around the eyes, you've got the red lips that extend past and have the scars on there. He's just kind of has he has an expression on his face that we didn't get to see in the movie during all this. He's just,
much more classic looking.
Yeah.
Didn't Nolan say this is his favorite scene in the movie? I think
I wouldn't have been
himself-
surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised if he did. I don't remember. I think that's probably right, though.
It's an excellent scene. It's one of my favorites as well in the whole movie.
It's definitely the one where, like, there are moments where people, like, in the theater for a movie like this, where people kind of you can just tell everyone's collectively paying attention. Like, nobody's, like...
that is true. We just glued as a motherfucker, dude.
Whenever Joker was on screen in this movie, you could tell, like, everyone was just wrapped into the movie.
Yeah,
and, I think, there's probably other times where I felt that over the years, but I think sometimes the closest sometimes I feel to that would be the crazy ass Tom Cruise stunts, and maybe that's just because Mission Impossible just came out. But like, I could feel the whole theater. It's not a spoiler because it's in the trailer. But I could feel the whole theater just like stare and gasp collectively when he jumps off on the motorcycle.
Oh yeah,
latest one.
I saw that like 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah, it's I felt the same way. This was a little bit, maybe even more so though, just because of
it's a full
because
scene.
of Ledger's performance and like it's one-on-one, man. I know there's people just watching on the other side of the glass, but it's really cool, like one-on-one interrogation scene. And like, again, the lines like never hit him on the head. It makes him all fuzzy, or whatever he says there. It's so great.
I think it's also like what you were saying too, where it's a scene, it's a performance, it's not a stunt. Like the big special effect is Heath Ledger. Like, he is the effect. He is the thing that is like drawing you in, that's making you gasp, and that's what makes it so cool.
I'm going to really read into something in this. I'm going to make a mountain out of a molehill real quick.
Okay.
But so he says you're going to break your one rule or whatever, right? In this scene, there is no fucking scene that sets up. There's nothing that we have seen that shows Joker learning about Batman's rules. They never mentioned a no-kill rule too much in this trilogy at all, I think. And like but I don't think it's an error too much, because it makes me think. Again, I'm making a mountain out of a molehill here, but it makes me think it shows just how much in sync the Joker is with Batman. You know, like he just fucking knows him on a level. Like, how does he know all this shit? Well, he just knows.
There's a caveat to this, though, because like earlier in the movie, Maroni does tell Batman, "Everyone knows you're not going to kill me."
Okay, so he does say that. So Maroni probably told Joker.
Yeah, or at least the criminals have. There's a reputation among the criminals.
Right,
that, like, Batman will send you to the
true.
hospital,
That's
but he
true.
will send you to the morgue, and so like Joker gleans from that, just like Maroni has presumably gleaned from that Batman's not going to kill.
Okay, I was thought deeply about something that was wrong, but okay, I never thought about that way, but I never connected those dots.
To me, that was the explanation.
Yeah. You're right. That is the explanation. I didn't make that connection, so I just thought that he was in sync with Batman psychically somehow. You know, not trying to be
yeah, but
supernatural or anything.
I get it though. He does come off like almost a supernatural force of nature in terms of how he's able to make things happen so well. You know,
right.
You know, there's been kind of a debate on the whole like, Joker says he doesn't plan anything, and I'm just like, he doesn't plan anything. Did you see how this whole thing worked? Like how this came together? Was that just by luck? But I can see it being intentional, where it's like it's up to you. To me personally, I'm just like, I think Joker's just saying that shit to Two-Face, but in reality, of course, he's planned everything. You know, of course, like his plan at the end of the fairies was for, you know, the fairies to blow up and Gotham to have no hope and shit. Because clearly he's frustrated when it doesn't happen. Like the guy clearly plans a lot and stuff. He's just saying that to Two-Face. But, you know, an argument could be said through, you know, from the other side saying that, well, like that's just, you know, maybe he means something else. Maybe he means he doesn't have like a set end game. He's always planning different things, but he doesn't have like a set plan. He's more flexible.
I mean, he does talk about being an agent of chaos, but there is a lot of planning. I mean,
yes,
I'd say I agree, but he, you know, like with the two boats thing, and he's trying to show the world that it's as broken as he is, and then, you know, of course, we find out that the world isn't as broken as he is. It's just him.
Yeah.
And I think that's a revelation to Joker. And honestly, all that shit is like some of the deepest shit in comic book movies. And, you know, we have Nolan and Goyer to thank for that. You know, the cultural impact of these movies is insane. People quote these movies all the time because they resonate deeply. It's something to do with him being British or something, man. I don't know what it is. Like, it just, I know Goyer wrote it and he's American, but it's that combination.
And his brother's American too. You know?
Isn't that weird?
It's always weird. Yeah.
Jonathan Nolan has an American accent. Chris Nolan is British as hell. I don't know what it is, man, but yeah, it's great. I'm a huge, if you can't tell, I'm a huge Nolan fan. I don't think that everything he's ever made is like a 10 out of 10. I didn't really love Tenet, but I like what he's doing. I like his whole career as a director. Even when he makes a mistake, I still appreciate that it exists, that movie exists. You know, so yeah.
And with that, we'll take off to the break and we'll come back and go over the concept art for the locales. All right, everyone, it's time for our July announcements. We got a bunch of other new things on the way, or already recorded. So let's start with this. We have the 89 logo up here because for those who missed it, I was on the show Table Read Tuesdays where we read the Sam Hamm script from 1986. For the Batman 89 movie. I couldn't reveal who I was playing the last time we announced this, but since it's already come and gone, I was the voice of Batman. Woo! So I got to finally read that role. It was an awesome experience. I got my own Vicky Vale, got my own Joker to fight against, my own Robin even, but you know, it's also a script where there are long instances where Batman is doing stuff and doesn't say anything, so it was really easy for me compared to everyone else. especially compared to Kat, the narrator, who was the MVP of that, with reading through all the action description. But check that out at the Table Read Tuesdays YouTube page that we'll have on the link below. And it is 5 hours long, FYI. So we don't expect you to go through all that, because there's a lot of, again, there's so much action description that it's not the same length as a movie when we go through all that. And the final hour alone is just on, an analysis and discussion on the differences between this and the movie itself. So check that out if you want. And in the meantime, both Andrew and I, as we've talked about before, are in a movie. We're in Jeffrey Scott Richards' movie Derek Magnum. We recently saw the finished edit of it. It's great. We are in it, of course. It's great because we're in it. No, it's great regardless whether or not we're in it. But please help us out, or help them out, really, because this does not go to us. There's a GoFundMe set up for the Derek Magnum production costs, and a lot of it goes towards submitting it to festivals, which is where, Jeffrey's sending it, and we are executive producers on the movie. So if you are a part of that and want to help out, you will be basically helping us become executive producers on potentially an award-winning movie in these festivals. So
Indeed.
That's exciting.
Yes, thank you for including us, Derek, and it's awesome. Please check it out, everybody, and please try to help them out with production costs. Plus, the submitting to festivals, man, it ain't cheap.
Nope.
That's a whole other deal, dude.
Yes.
So please check that out if you can.
Another announcement coming up. So I have a couple creative things. Andrew has a couple creative things, so I'll start with mine. My first scripted podcast for the audio drama channel Nuverse Creative. That is coming up soon, if it has not been already by the time this gets released. And it is not one that we've announced before. This has been kept secret until now, but I can finally reveal this. It's going to be Batman 89, Case of the Chemical Syndicate. This is an adaptation of the very first Batman story, Detective Comics number 27, by Bill Finger, but written as a prequel to Batman 89. And also, as you can see in this thumbnail, by Tim over at Nuverse Creative, it is inspired by the Caped Crusader suit that we broke down in our episode where we went through all the different Keaton suits. So that's why that's there. Though
you wrote it?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
so I wrote,
cool.
I adapted this. It's basically a faithful adaptation of Detective Comics number 27, but I injected a little something in there that you guys are going to have to listen to that makes it connect to the movie, the 89 movie. Though if you subscribe to the idea that Keaton's Batman in The Flash is a different version from his in Batman 89, let's keep in mind, guys, this is audio. So you can just envision him in whatever suit you want. If you want to envision him in the Batman 89 suit, cool. If you want to, put this in same continuity as Johnny K's The Oath movie, maybe he's in that Batman Returns style prototype that he wore in that. It's up to you, because this is what I love about doing these. It's audio. So you can envision whatever the hell you want when it comes to the designs of these suits. So that I'm excited about that. It's my first release collaboration with Nuverse on that. And if this does well, maybe we'll take a crack at some other ones that explain those Keaton suits for there. But when you check that out, you may also hear a familiar voice in the story as one of the villains. So that is on the way, or has already been released, depending on when that gets out. And lastly, to continue updating people, I have more art to share on the upcoming comic of mine, Alter Ego, which is basically Game of Thrones supervillains, where 5 families of villains rule over the wasteland of a post-apocalyptic city. I introduced you last time to the first 3 families. This is the head of the 4th family, the Gatekeeper. Think of him as Aquaman on land. He can communicate with all the surviving zoo animals to protect the borders of the city and ensure no one gets in or out, hence the Gatekeeper. So as you can see here, he's got a lion as an enforcer, as well as a bird who informs him of everything that happens. And that cane is nothing to, be afraid of the cane, is all I'm going to say on that. So this is what we got. And over to Andrew on your stuff.
Okay, so if you've listened to the podcast for a long time, this project used to be called Amino Recon. We've changed that to what we think is a better name, and it's now called Metal Force. Okay, and we're going to have a booth where we're promoting the Kickstarter that's going to be running for Metal Force, at Japan World Heroes Convention. That's the name of the convention, and that's August 18th to 20th. And that's at the Burbank Marriott Convention Center in Los Angeles. We might be selling some trinkets too. So some small stuff, nothing crazy. And just kind of like promoting our project and trying to get funding while at the convention. So check it out, and also please check out www.metalforce.ninja. That is our URL, and you can see the campaign video there, and just the whole pitch and everything for Metal Force is there. And it's R-rated Power Rangers meets Stranger Things. That's my elevator pitch for it. It's not a fan film, but it does have strong inspiration from those two things. So it's a horror comedy movie. So there it is. Please check it out. And that's it for that one, Ben.
Nice. And lastly, we have our charity for this month.
Okay.
To be for Hope for the Day.
Hope for the Day is a non-profit movement empowering the conversation on proactive suicide prevention through action, outreach, and education. By educating ourselves and our communities on the basics of mental health, we can create strong peer support networks to assist those experiencing mental health challenges. When we provide accessible resources for mental health and social services, we can save lives. And especially if you look at our when we look at our YouTube analytics, we're like over 99% men. And not to say that it's obviously doesn't matter about gender, but there's something about men not talking about their mental problems. I'll say that. Like, dudes don't talk about emotions and feelings and shit. So if I can talk to 99% of our audience, like, please go seek help and talk to these people, or the suicide prevention hotline as well. Because Ben, have you ever had anybody commit suicide in your life?
Yes.
And I have as well. A lot of people have this experience, which really fucking sucks. So, this is what we're talking about this month, and Hope for the Day is our charity. So please check them out. Just wanted to announce that I have a new podcast called Gaming Gaiden. It's about Japanese to English translation. In this first season, it will be 10 episodes each season. If you saw the ranking, every Superman video game two-parter we did here on Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you have seen Mike before. So yes, if you like video games, if you've been interested in Japanese ever, we're going to be talking a lot about just Japan in general, Japanese cultural differences as well, and we also are going to have a lot of talk about 90s video game magazines such as Electronic Gaming Monthly, aka EGM. So stay tuned for Gaming Gaiden podcast. It's already out now, y'all. I want to tell you about the patreon.com patreon.com/superherostuffpod, and on that you get the $1 tier. You can join the $1 tier, which gets you the shout out on the board, and either visually or orally, or both at times. We want to do the oral for the most part for newer people. And then the $5 tier gets you a whole new show. This show is every Monday, as you well know, and it's free on YouTube and the what's nots. And the Patreon show is every Friday at the $5 tier mark. You can, if you want, binge us for $5, and there's like 150 episodes, almost 150 at this point, and you can listen to all that content there. Even the stuff that's been released from the vault, none of that has been the full episode as well. So trying to keep our $5 tier people happy. But yeah, check that out. And then our $10 tier gets you all of the above, plus it gets you a monthly meetup show where you meet up with us monthly, and it's like a Zoom-like call, and we have a topic at hand, or sometimes videos we react to and things like that. And that's at the $10 tier. Every tier that you get, like the $5 tier, gets you the $1 tier benefits, and the $10 tier gets you the $5 tier benefits and the $1 tier benefits. So check that out at patreon.com/superherostuffpod. We also got the merch, which is Redbubble, superhousepod.redbubble.com, and on Threadless, superherostuffpod.threadless.com. Get your Bin Man and Indeed Wizard mug, shirt, shower curtains, and all the rest artwork by Stefan Santa Cruz. And please send us some audio at superhousepodcast@gmail.com. A bumper would be great. You too can be part of the show. I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Instagram and Twitter. Thunderwolf Lives is my other YouTube channel, one of my many YouTube channels. And I have also thunderwolfdrew.com has my whole portfolio in one place except for amanorecon.com. That's AMANORECON.com. And that is an original idea that some friends and I are doing where it is R-rated Power Rangers meets Stranger Things. That's the quick pitch, and it is not a fan film, original idea. We have a pitch video right now on YouTube and on the Indiegogo page. We're campaigning right now as of this when this episode premieres. And this poster art is by ZacharyJacksonBrownArt.com. And check it out. Please support us on the campaign. And more from that soon. But yes, it's bloody. And if you like that kind of thing, check us out. And that's it. Ben.
Follow us on social media, on Twitter at SuperhousePod, Instagram Superhero Stuff Pod, where we have some different supplemental stuff. I've even analyzed the martial arts stance that the Keaton ornament from The Flash is in, so you can check that out on our Instagram, Superhero Stuff Pod, TikTok, Superhero Stuff Pod, Vero, Superhero Stuff Pod. My website is benwanwriter.com, where you can read a whole bunch of spec scripts, including Gotham, Vampire, Elementary, The Death of Sherlock Holmes, and Curb Your Enthusiasm, Disneyland. If you're fans of any of those shows, check them out and let us know what you think. My YouTube channel is in the description below, including Doctor Who, The Ronin of Time, an audio drama I write, edit, and narrate with the 8th Doctor meeting Miyamoto Musashi. My personal Instagram is benwanwriter. If you like cats, my son, Alfie, my cat, is at Alfie Pennyworth Cat. And if you have an Alfie yourself, then you can get the Whisker Box, the only cat box with a crazy cat lady and gent. And you can even check out another page on that website, superherostuffpod.com/show notes. That includes various show notes for each of our episodes, links to the scripts that we review if they're available online, Amazon links to the stuff we've been talking about, including, Brian Levant's book that he plugged for us, My Life and Toys. So check that out at superherostuffpod.com/show notes.
Lord have mercy, y'all. Do you like hounds? Do you enjoy pooches? Do you find yourself enjoying time spent with that of canines? Talking about dogs, y'all.
As you might have heard, Superhero Stuff You Should Know has now teamed up with BarkBox. For every month, you get a box for your special canine.
Pooches.
Or hounds.
That's right. One free extra month if you go to barkbox.com/superherostuffpod.
Follow the link and you'll get a free extra month valued at $35 and valid for all multi-length plans.
So get the BarkBox for your hound, for your pooch, for your canine.
Your doggo will thank you.
Bark, bark, chicken head.
Welcome back, and now we're going to look at the different locales and scenes from the concept art. Some stuff will look very close to what we saw in the movie, like the stuff we have right here. And other times it will look a little different, so we'll see. But this is the Wayne Enterprises, R&D division. How Lucius has kind of spruced it up a little bit since it was last seen in Batman Begins. But this is the area where, Lucius tells Bruce about how he's going to learn to turn his head. Actually, that was in the previous scene, but you know what I mean. This is the one where he gives him the Batsuit and stuff. So,
right.
Looks pretty close. As we see.
Yeah,
here.
it's close enough, yeah.
And here's the boardroom where Bruce is caught falling asleep with Mr. Lau, which I've always interpreted as Bruce pretending to, because he's just very much awake when Lucius walks back in. but it could also be a thing where he's just out so long that he just naps anyway, and he just lets himself do it because it'll just enhance his, Bruce Wayne image. Could go either way.
I took it as being real. It's just they wanted the comedic beat, and he's working all night, every night. So it's taking a toll on him. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think the humor of this movie, I think, is underrated.
Yeah, it's great. It's really funny.
Sometimes it doesn't always hit, but the Joker humor as well as the stuff involving Playboy Bruce Wayne, those are where the humor just soars. Like Bruce Wayne specifically when he's like pretending to be kind of an idiot. He's like, "You think I should go to a hospital?" To Gordon, he's like, "You don't look at the news much, do you?"
Yeah,
like that stuff is great. This is the mayor's office where we got the imposter Batman who's being hanged, which was one of the big jump scares in the theater. I still remember that.
Oh, yeah. Incredible. Such a cool shot, too.
Yeah. So that shot's here. Moving forward, we get that from the outside as the guy's being lowered down. But this is kind of a shot we didn't really get to see in the movie in terms of how it looked, or if we did, it was very brief.
Oh, yeah, this looks a lot like what we got.
Yeah.
Man. So whenever he's doing that, I think I mentioned this before in a previous one, but when Joker's in the Joker footage of him like fucking with the guy, he says like, "Look at me." He does like a straight up like death metal growl, like the second or third time. Like it's it sounds really like heavy metal influence. Or so I was like, that was like, even in the theater, I was like, damn, that's awesome.
Maybe that's what he was listening to that day.
It could, at least for that one line, it must have had that influence, dude. It's so close to that.
I'm picturing him skateboarding around because that's another thing. For those who don't know, this is the reference. So Heath Ledger was skateboarding on set as the Joker. Somebody did a Photoshop thing of him skateboarding above the Batsuit. That's not actually what happened, but like there is video footage of him.
You mean him doing an ollie over Batman himself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not actually real, but it is. I do remember seeing the set footage of him just chilling out and just sort of just between takes, obviously. Skateboarding, and I think this is an era of the internet, I think, where everyone knew that was between takes. I feel like if it was these days, people would be like, "This is bullshit. Joker doesn't skateboard," because nobody reads shit these days. Just goes with whatever they feel like, and then they don't research anything. But back in 2007 or so, when that happened, it was pretty clear it was between takes. So I kind of picture him listening to like heavy metal while he's doing that, and maybe that's what influenced his delivery of that line.
At least for the one line, dude, it must have. And that was another moment in the movie. I was just so like entranced by the performance.
Yeah. No. Anyway, again, you're glued to the screen for that scene.
Glued to it. There was, in recent memory, the only other time that's happened to me in the theater, like I was super glued, was not a comic book movie, but it was Get Out, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Completely fucking like entranced by the movie.
I can see that.
Yeah, just incredible, especially near the end of the second act, going into the third act. I thought that was incredible. I was blown away. I was blown away by Get Out. It's a special feeling. You don't get it too often. At least I don't. But anyway, here's Rachel.
This is Rachel in the among all the oil drums before she gets killed. But yeah, this is the look of that area. The clothes might be a little different, but yeah, this is pretty close to what we ended up getting. This is the wreckage, I guess, after Rachel's killed. The fire trucks and stuff. Joker on the pile of money, of course.
Great scene.
There's no Mr. Lau at the top, but it's just
everything
him
burns.
Yep, as he burns that guy to death.
Yeah.
This is that brother eye type of device that Bruce uses for sonar to find the Joker towards the end.
This is wrong.
This is wrong. And then more of Bruce's penthouse at the top, which I knew was going to be in this movie because I was just like, look, Wayne Manor is burnt down. It would be cool if they referenced the 70s and had him like living in the Wayne Tower. And lo and behold, that's what they ended up doing. in the movie. Thought it was perfect.
Yeah. It's cool. It reads that sad ass letter.
Yeah.
Almost reads it.
This is something that's new, though. Unless you remember a meat locker in the movie.
I don't.
This is Joker in a meat locker. I feel like maybe this is like an alternate scene of the Everything Burns scene, except there's no cash here. So I don't know. Maybe they were just playing around with different things, or maybe this is like kind of the setting or one of the settings they had in mind for the mob meeting that he crashes.
Right. This is like maybe the hallway into where the mob is.
Potentially. But yeah, this is one that intrigued me because I'm like, this is different.
I mean, all these dead animals has a horror vibe, Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of thing.
That too.
So yeah, sure, why not?
Let's see, going forward, classic look of Batman looking over Gotham City. Always a great shot.
Classic.
They do that. This is leading up to the ferries. I think this is the prison. A Blackgate prison where they put the prisoners on the ferries before the big two boats scene.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Batman on the Batpod, which looks pretty close to what we ended up getting anyway. So
pretty good, yeah.
Pretty good.
I like this motorcycle. I always thought it was pretty cool. I forgot what I ranked it as, but it's pretty good.
I think we still gave it an A or a B.
Yeah, right?
Like it's one that, again, like it was one of the few times where I liked it once I saw the movie. Liked it better once I saw the movie. Because most of the time, especially like what we went over with The Flash, like when we saw it, when we saw certain designs, we were just like, oh, that's awesome. Or, and the movie didn't really change our opinion on it. But this one is
not really, yeah.
Something about the function of it from the Tumblr. Or just like, oh, that's why it looks like that. That's why it makes sense. That's why the wheels are so big, like all those aspects. That's why it's called Bat Pod, because it's an escape pod. Like all those things suddenly like drive together and made sense. And I remember like that was kind of reported, or that was the rumor, but there was something different about finally actually seeing it go from Tumblr to Bat Pod on screen that really changed my mind. I was like, all right, you know what? That's legit. Like that's cool. And it's probably also that flip against the wall that your friend hated.
Oh yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, I had no problem with anything it did, and it took out a fucking before it did the flip, it did it took out the 18-wheeler. So
yeah,
why not?
Indeed. Another shot of Joker on top of the pile of money, as well. Obviously, they wanted to, how do you picture a pile of money? Like I'm sure that's kind of what they were thinking of in this. They're sort of like referencing the Long Halloween, but they have to bring it to live action.
Part of this, like some of these like location shots, I'm thinking like, why don't they just take a picture of the location they're going to shoot at? But then I was like, and then my second thought was like, oh yeah, they're going to build this.
Yes.
They're going to build a lot of this in a location. So, because they have money.
If you can find a random place with this much money stacked up in cash, let me know.
Well, not just this, but like any of the other materials, like any of the locations. I mean, like even the penthouse and all that.
Yeah.
Like they definitely found like an apartment, room or whatever. But I'm sure a lot of that might have been even like customized by production design.
Or it's a set with like green screen through the windows that they then like, put something that made it look like he's in a high rise, but he's not actually in a high rise.
Yeah, exactly.
This is something different. So this is the imposter Batman, but he's hanging from a light post.
Pretty fucking dark, man.
Yeah.
This is darker than anything else.
Yeah, the ragged cape and everything's empty. Nobody's seeing him.
It's dark as fuck, yeah.
This is also dark as fuck. So now we're getting into the Two-Face period as we wrap things up. So this is literally Harvey right after he's been burned. So half of him is steaming, smoking on fire from all of that. His hand looks a little fucked up too from that. Maybe that's just how they drew it, but almost looks like he's got claws in this. Clearly, that's not what they were actually going to do in the movie. But
yeah, I think that might be like his bone coming out. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird he has claws, but
yeah.
If this would have been kind of a cool shot, though.
Yeah, that too. It looks like Batman's farther away in this one than he was in the movie.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then we got other shots of Two-Face. The main thing that is a little different from the comic book Two-Face, or the traditional comic book Two-Face is the fact that he's kind of bald on that one side, which was probably likely an influence from the Long Halloween that then, thanks to this as well, percolated into the comics. And so different comic book versions will sort of adopt this type of look where it's, kind of bald. It's bald on the other side due to the burns. And sometimes you'll see one where it's just white hair on the other side. So it's still kind of down to artist interpretation. Mm-hmm. But for sure, that's something that's unique to this version is kind of the bits of jawbone you see sticking out of Harvey in the movie, which was achieved through CG. Sort of a rare moment of Nolan using CG, but he kind of needed it for that type of makeup.
Yeah, you need that, and like anytime you need to, like, you could put prosthetics on, but it's very hard to make a negative space. So, like anytime, like they had to take away, like especially when in some zombies when they take away the nose, they'll put green around the nose, and then fix that digitally. I don't know what. I guess the jaw, maybe some other things too with him, but it was a great effect, and it was also kind of like almost like comedic that he was wearing like the Two-Face suit too, but it was like a fucked up.
He's wearing the suit that he got burned in.
He's wearing the suit that he got burned in because it seems like almost too silly for Nolan, but like Nolan definitely like wanted to pay homage to that. So I appreciated that. I'm sure you did as well.
I thought it was the best character design of the movie.
It was kind of funny. It was just funny. Yeah. It was funny to see the suit. His face looks like, not funny, obviously, but the suit was funny.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's also one where I'm just like, I'm not a fan of a lot of the designs that we've talked about before, whether it's the Batsuit or a scarred Joker or the Bat Bunker. So, like, to see, like, a Two-Face that kind of looked like he stepped a little bit closer off the page was refreshing in this movie, even if it was, like, a little too much when it came to, like, the bits and bones that were sticking out and shit. I'm like, okay, we didn't need that, dude. But, like, I appreciate that, like, somebody, him and Jim Gordon look like they stepped off the comic book page.
Yes, so, that's true.
There's that.
Yes.
But yeah, other than that, whoops, skipped a little bit ahead, but that's the Two-Face stuff. Again, not a lot of stuff that's hugely different from what we got in the movie, but it's still worth going back and taking a look, especially those early, like, Joker ones. And, and seeing what, the genesis of these ideas. That's what's always so cool about looking at this.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other closing thoughts? Any stuff that you thought was anything that jumped out at you?
The
Francis
pigs. The Francis Bacon was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that. And then the pig shot, because I want to know where that was supposed to fit in the movie.
Yeah, if anyone knows, let us know. I'm going back to it right here, where like it's like Joker standing in the middle of like what looks like a meat locker type of thing.
It must be him walking to like the debut scene, but they wanted to cut it because they wanted it to be. It's about this is filmmaking 101 here, but it like what perspective is the shot from? So they wanted to keep the perspective of that scene being from the perspective of the mob.
Mm-hmm.
If they had changed it to a solo shot, like a one shot of him walking in, it would have like changed perspectives. Right?
That's true.
So
it feels like it's Joker's perspective instead of theirs.
Yeah. So if it might have been that, and they cut it because it didn't fit like that,
mm-hmm.
but. We're not sure. We haven't read the fucking script, don't know. But it seems like maybe that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let us know in the comment section.
Yeah.
I like some of the early Joker designs. I like seeing some of the clown stuff that they were playing around with, because I'm just like, look, if you're going to play around with Joker's look, I would prefer adding more clown stuff rather than adding more scars and chemical burn stuff. And unfortunately, it looks like these days, with the exception of the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, it looks like people are trying to lean a lot more towards scars or how do we fuck them up or give them tattoos and shit. And I'm like, look, we don't need that. You give them more different clown stuff. I'm fine with more clown stuff, but making them look all deformed and shit. I'm just like, you don't need to do that. But that's just my take.
It's about not knowing if it's going to be funny or if it's going to be scary.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on the edge of your seat because it could be either or both, like the pencil trick caught us all off guard probably the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That it starts out as a joke and ends up in murder. What I mean? It's just like it's That's the Joker, man. That should be like his whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And with that, that is superhero stuff you should know. Big thanks to Dan for gathering the visuals and the concept art for the YouTube experience that we got. And jumping into the fan comments, we got French Lover 3000 who commented on our Spider-Man Operation Z, the unmade Jim Shooter treatment episode that we did with Tim Maxwell from Newverse Creative. French Lover says, great episode, guys. The whole thing with Aunt May misunderstanding Kingpin's intentions is amusing to me because it reminds me of some of the early Spider-Man comics from the 60s, some of which I've read, where Aunt May was kidnapped by the Sinister Six, if I recall correctly, and thought that Doc Ock was, quote-unquote, a nice gentleman. Yeah, I think Doc Ock even tries to marry her at one point. But there was even a later issue where Aunt May held Spider-Man at gunpoint trying to defend Doc Ock. Thankfully, modern stories and adaptations don't do this weird Aunt May-Doc Ock dynamic anymore, and it remains mostly a kooky 60s subplot. So, that is true. I do think Alfred Molina and Marisa Tomei have played lovers in something, though. So if you want to see something close to that in live action, check that out. I'd have to look up the movie.
Wouldn't surprise me.
But yeah, because she's been in the industry for so long that she's been paired up with a whole bunch of different. I think who else has she been with among the Spider-Man villains? I forgot, but like I remember seeing like somebody had like a montage with the different. Like all the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of thing, but with Marisa Tomei among like MCU actors and stuff. Oh yeah, well obviously Robert Downey Jr. People have brought that up.
Oh yeah, she'll be hot when she's 85, dude. I mean, she's like, it's ridiculous, bro. It's unbelievable.
So I'll have to look up the movie on that, but yeah, it's kind of the closest to be able to see Aunt May with Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Next is from Bonch Bonch, saying, I think the issue with...
awesome name.
Nice name, yes.
Bonch Bonch.
Bonch Bonch says, I think the issue of Keaton's Batman knowing about multiverses has more to do with confusion about why he would know anything about time travel. It doesn't fit with the relatively more grounded world depicted in the Burton films. To me, this is the same thing, though. Because just like the multiverse, time travel also exists as a theory in our world. So... I don't think it's a case where Batman has personal experience with these things. He doesn't need personal experience with these things, just like we don't need personal experience with these things. Stephen Hawking, doesn't need,
You're right.
experience with these things. Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't need, experience, like personal experience living through these things. These are scientific theories, which Bruce could have easily read during his retirement in that big-ass library he has, which looks like every book ever published is in that library. So he most likely did read about the multiverse and time travel there.
I mean, it's like him knowing all that stuff, like you said, it's just the same as knowing about gravity. Mm-hmm. It's the same as knowing about like the Big Bang and shit like that. There is some stuff specific to the movie that's not really science, like the canon event type stuff. But other than that, like it's he just knows science, man. It's just that's just what it is. It's funny how people have kind of taken issue with this particular part. I think it's just people don't see it as science. They see it as just a comic book invention, and it just takes him out of the movie, I guess. For whatever reason, but he just knows science, man. There was other problems with this film. I don't think this is one of them.
No. I agree with you on that. This is not a problem with the movie, at least to us. I do think though there is a point to be said where I think maybe because it's Batman and because he comes from a world we wouldn't really associate all these things happening with, it might be a little bit more jarring because nobody said a goddamn thing in Avengers Endgame that Bruce Banner and company know about time travel, because time travel was not established really before Avengers Endgame. Now,
I think so.
It's a world with a lot of comic booky stuff, though, so I get that.
Let's pick this apart, though. Tony Stark is more of an engineering kind of guy, like a machinist. Mm-hmm. So he would know less, maybe, but then again, he's got genius level intellect, and like. Then you got
Banner.
Bruce Banner is like more of like your quantum physicist type, I think.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. What is he supposed to study exactly? What type of sciences is he?
It does bring that up, doesn't it? Because I thought about that too. I'm just like, well, yeah, Banner knows, and Banner's he's a scientist.
He's a scientist. We're got a lab coat. Have you seen the coat?
he deals with radiation.
Yeah, he's got the gamma whatever the fuck it is. No, but it does seem like he more than Stark maybe.
He's the one who seems to have the authority on time travel in that movie. Yeah,
if he knows like 98% of quantum mechanics, Tony Stark knows 78% or whatever the fuck. Tony Stark knows a lot, but Bruce Banner on this subject knows a little bit more probably. But I think also like the other like undercurrent of this is like it's so spacey, I think, and with like Bruce Wayne, it's if he had said anything science-y involving chemicals at a crime lab, like no one would have batted an eye. But this being like really big space concepts, it just really throws some people off, maybe.
Yeah, but again, it didn't bother us.
No, not really. I'm surprised the kind of backlash this particular point in the movie has gotten.
Yeah, well, there's certain things that we wish had more backlash in this movie.
Dude, I've said a lot of times, this is actually tangential to what you just said, but going to the box office again, like I'm starting to believe in karma, bro. Like this is this is man, I'm not really religious at all, but this karma, dude, this is really starting to kick in for me.
Yeah. So, but thank you, Bonch.
Yes, Bonch.
I selected this last comment because it is related to this episode. So Rambo Roberto says, another excellent video, gents. This is on our non-spoiler review on The Flash. I would be interested to know what you deem the best DC movie. I love your work, Ben. However, I totally disagree with your opinion on The Dark Knight. That, to me, is not only the greatest superhero movie ever made, but also one of the mightiest films ever created. Be interested to know your opinion. Okay. So...
Ooh, we've never been confronted like this.
Full context of this. Okay, so... this is back when we did the non-spoiler review on The Flash, and we saw the movie before most of the public did, and most of the public who actually did see the movie, considering what happened later.
Oh my god!
And I objected during that review. I objected to the hype that it was, quote, the best DC movie since The Dark Knight, which is something that I feel gets thrown around a lot. It was thrown around a lot for The Flash, but also just in general for some of the other stuff where it was, to me. Well, I'll get into it, but I said I didn't think The Flash was the best DC movie since The Dark Knight, and on top of that, I didn't think The Dark Knight was the best DC movie either. Or the actual statement I had in my notes is The Dark Knight's not the best DC movie since The Dark Knight, which I didn't really get to explain because I think I got distracted thinking about something else. But
you're a Returns guy.
In terms of overall, or
overall, is Batman Returns your favorite ever?
I would say it's mixed. I mean, look. My favorite, like the '90s Batman in general, would probably be in my heart, right? If you were to ask me, it'd be '89 through Forever, would be like the ones I rewatch over and over and over again. But in terms of characterization and script and plot, the edge goes to Batman Begins and the Batman for me as well. So
okay,
it's tough. My personal favorites would be '89 and Returns, with like Forever being like right under it. But if we were talking about like what's the best, I'm like, to me, in terms of best representation of the character plus a good solid script, then it would be Begins and the Batman and the Batman. But again, part of this, the part of the reason I said what I said was that like I feel like the quote's the best DC movie since The Dark Knight sort of implies that everything in between The Dark Knight and whatever movie they're talking about has been like horrifically bad, which in the case of The Flash isn't really the case. There were plenty of good ones. There was still I still like the first Wonder Woman, the first Shazam, Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Batman, because calling it a DC movie doesn't say that it's specifically a DCEU movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's saying DC movie here.
Yeah, and I say most of those are better than The Flash. And I'm not even a big Man of Steel fan, but I'd probably still rank. Honestly, I might even rank Man of Steel over The Flash and stuff, or maybe that's just because of how great that looked. How the effects looked so great in that one compared to how the CG looked in The Flash.
Yeah, we didn't know what we had, man, when Man of Steel came out.
Yeah, and then like 10 years later, we look at The Flash and we're like, well, I can see why some people say like we miss Snyder. I'm like, well, I definitely miss the visual aspect at times. The way that he shoots action, like you've talked about.
Yeah, he's a fucking virtuoso with action. James
Yeah.
Cam- James Cameron himself has like said shit about that as well. I mean, Cameron generally has better scripts and stuff than Snyder, but Snyder's incredible with action, unbelievable with action, dude.
Yeah, for sure. The other factor of why I did say that I don't think The Dark Knight's the best DC film, and what I think the best DC film is, I think, for those who've been with us for a while, you've heard our deep dives into the Nolan films. Each one is like 2 or 3 parts each. We go through each movie. We kind of did a competition of what's in the movie versus the comics. I'll try not to repeat like a lot of the minor points brought up here, but when it comes to the topic of best DC movie, I feel like if I'm going to crown something the best DC movie, it has to have a few factors. My personal criteria. Again, this is all my opinion. It should, of course, be a great entertaining movie in itself, which The Dark Knight is. But I also feel like it has to have the look and feel of like the comic book brought to life in some way, even if it's not 100% accurate. But like at least feel in some way like a representation of what's in the comics, and it should feel like a great representation of the superhero character, as well as on top of that have a lot of influence and cultural impact on the genre and the perception of that character. There have been plenty of like solid superhero films that we've liked, like the first Shazam, but like you got to be kidding me if we're going to say that has any influence or cultural impact on anything afterwards.
Well,
So,
I mean, just what's your gut tell you, man? I'm going to continue the criteria, but I think it's ultimately a gut thing.
It's a gut thing. It's a gut thing. And I'm not a Dark Knight hater. I've praised aspects of this on the show in this episode before, but out of the criteria I outlined, I feel like I can't in good conscience crown the best DC movie to something that is also trying so hard not to be a comic book movie at the same time, which shows up a lot in the designs that we talked about here. Like as we said, like the most comic booky looking characters in this are Jim Gordon and Two-Face. So I'm like, and it's a sentiment that was there before Nolan, but it's one that he definitely cemented, which is sort of this era where it's like we'll adapt comic book stories and the deep themes of it, but we don't want, we almost feel ashamed of making it too comic book. They can't look too close to the comics. They can't be, too faithful to that type of stuff. And I feel like that element is there. And, obviously the movie has major strengths. It's got, the themes, as Andrew's talked about, the iconic dialogue, and obviously Heath Ledger's Joker. But, those things are important, but also, again, it depends on what your priorities are and your criteria or what your gut is. I'm more of a story guy than a theme guy. I'm more of an emotion than how the subplots tie together type of person. I'd rather have a strong hero than a strong villain for a lot of this. And so, like, I think the Joker is obviously universally praised, and that's part of this movie. When it comes to Batman, I think there are great individual moments of the Batman character in this. You've got Bruce throwing out the champagne off the balcony. You got Bruce saving Mr. Reese by crashing the Lamborghini. You got Batman saving the hostages from the SWAT team, which I think is like the high point of the Bale era in terms of like Batman specific moments. Sure, the fight choreography is not as good as the warehouse scene, but like the emotion, the role it plays in the story, to me, like that is, what everyone says about the warehouse scene. That is my warehouse scene, is when he saves everyone in the SWAT from the SWAT team, in that, because of just how good that is. But in terms of representing the character, I feel mixed on it. Like and it's not just like, oh, like I don't like the suit, or like I've criticized the voice, but more of like to represent Batman. He spends the whole movie talking about how he won't kill, and then he breaks it at the end and kills Harvey. And nobody calls him out on it. And people are like, well, a kid was held hostage. What did you expect Batman to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe look at all the million of other times that Batman got out of a hostage situation without killing anyone in the comics. Like, I don't know why it had to end in that specific way, and in a way that, like, is, like, I'm not sure if it's done in a way where the point was that, oh, he had to break his rule, or he's going to break the rule, but it's okay in some way, but we're also not going to address it. So that's really weird to me. And I get it. We talk a lot about Batman 89 a lot here. It's my childhood favorite. I already just mentioned it as one of my favorites, but the characters and the characterization in that is not perfect either. But he also at least never said he had a rule against killing throughout the whole movie. Keaton at least was not, a hypocrite in that sense. But bigger thing is that this movie kind of establishes something that is kind of slightly hinted at in Begins, but becomes a bigger issue in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, which is that Bruce has 1 foot out the door already as Batman. He's ready to quit in year 2. He wants to shift all his responsibility to Harvey Dent in cleaning the streets, and also take Harvey Dent's fiance for himself because he's been in love with this girl who doesn't want to be with him. And I get like, there's a part of it. It's part of this is his character arc. I get it. He's naive enough to think that he can put the system back in charge, and Batman's just a temporary thing. But that aspect I just described of him and Harvey and Rachel, that's kind of the crux of his story in this movie. And that's not really a story about Bruce Wayne I can hold up as a great version of the character. I don't really think that's that great of a story for Batman specifically. I think it's a great Harvey Dent and Joker story. But in terms of Batman stuff, I'm just like, it falls flat to me. So I think it works best as like an ensemble crime movie with Nolan fulfilling his dream of aping Michael Mann, rather than a movie that represents what Batman's about. So that's kind of why I'm just like, I don't think I can quite crown it. Now, what do I crown as the best DC film in my mind? It's got to be Superman 78 to me. Because
more than any of the Batman films?
It's not perfect, as we talked about, but it fulfills everything I've talked about. It has the look and a feel of a Superman comic brought to life. You have a Superman who looks like he flew right off the page. You've got a costume that is faithful and iconic. You've got Christopher Reeve basically cementing how to play Superman. Even though I find his Clark Kent a little over the top, but like his Superman is like universally loved for a good reason. And the influence from that has like pervaded all like everything else, including Man of Steel, and is pervaded into the comics. And like without it, there is no superhero movie genre. Like, you have no Superman 78, you have no Batman 89, no Batman Begins, no Dark Knight. Like, you have nothing.
Yeah.
So, and there's also, like, great rewatchability factor, too. The Superman 78 has great rewatch value and stuff. So, like, yeah, I would rank that still over the others, even though, like, my personal favorites might be something like 89 Returns and Forever. But, you know, if I were to go into, you know, the issues why I wouldn't rank those either, though 89 would probably be close in terms of influence and cultural impact and visual representation of comics, we would be here all day. But anyways, like, yes, does The Dark Knight have weightier themes and a more adult tone? Yes. Does it have a better villain than Lex Luthor? Absolutely. It's like, I'm not saying Gene Hackman's better than Heath Ledger. Hackman's a great actor, but, you know, there are better Lex Luthors, for sure.
Yeah, he's just
again,
not great.
it's not great, but it serves its purpose in the movie, and he is bold at one point. So, like, it's... But again, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, like, is it a great representation of Superman rather than is it a great representation of the supervillain? You know, as opposed to...
That's ultimately more important.
Right.
And that's what's great about what Matt Reeves said about how he's going to continue his Reeves verse with the Batman. He's said in interviews that they often will become too focused on the villains. Mm-hmm. With Ledger, it was tough because it was just such a phenomenal performance, but... It's just cool that he's aware of that, and he's going to steer away from that as much as possible and keep it about Batman 100% in every one of his movies, which I think is a breath of fresh fucking air, man. Mm-hmm. So good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still looking, and maybe Brave and the Bold will do this, but I'm still looking for that fusion of the comic book visuals that we got from, like, Burton and, you know, arguably, you know, Snyder and Muschietti with, like, the deeper characterizations that we would get from, you know, say the Matt Reeves stuff. You know, Matt Reeves has presented his version, and I also like that one too. But again, some of the things I said about The Dark Knight still apply to the Matt Reeves stuff in terms of, like, hey, like, it's really trying hard not to be a comic book movie, even though it is still rooted in the comics. So I'm looking for that fusion as well, where, like, you can make it look like a living Batman comic book and have these deeper themes and stuff, and a focus on Bruce Wayne that we didn't really get in those 90s movies, which is the whole reason why I hesitate to crown those the greatest, even though, again, I love them. I love all these. It's just, I'm saying, like, if I were to crown the greatest, it's kind of like sometimes how much is that your personal favorite, how much of that is like a criteria that you have to have. Again, I feel like it has to be representative of a great version of that superhero character.
Well, this question is always really tough because the way you grade any kind of art, especially movies, is like you have in your mind, you know, the absolute greatest on like an absolute scale, and then you have your personal favorite. Right. So I think this should be answered in terms of your personal favorite. I think that's what, Rambo Roberto wants from us. But you're saying it's a toss-up between 89 to Forever. That's ultimately what you're saying, right?
I would say those are my favorites, but I would say I would crown the best DC movie to be Superman 78.
That would be your
he's asking
on an absolute scale, or this would be your personal
he said, I would
favorite?
be interested. He said I would be interested to know what you deem the best DC movie.
So that's absolute. Okay, absolute scale. I see. Yeah, maybe we'll need to get him to respond to us on this, but yeah, I'm kind of basic in this too. I think 78 and 89 are like the top. Probably. But again, another basic answer is it's going to depend on the day, dude. What you're in the mood for, because I mean, I had such a palpable response to Man of Steel when I saw it, and it's always going to kind of be there for me. And even though it has like a lot of problems, and like Dark Knight and Begins, those are like really the top. I think. I'm trying to think of anything else. I'm definitely like 89 for me, for my money. I like 89 more than Returns and Forever. I like all the, the 90s ones, 89 to Forever at least. I like them all, but for me 89 is clear winner.
The top one, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go, Rambo. You got my like 20-minute spiel on all this, so I hope you're happy.
Did you think about this a lot before?
I had to, because I'm just like, if I'm going to pull this up, I better have like an answer to him rather than just be like, well, it's still a good movie. Like I didn't want to end it and have you just be like, well, Ben, you're just being diplomatic. I'm like, no, here's what I actually think of The Dark Knight. I still like it, but like, here's my my most diplomatic answer to this though is that we are fucking lucky to have so many good stuff, so many good movies.
Yeah.
Because like, it could be there are certain characters in like from other in the Marvel sphere where like if they fucked it up once or even not even the Marvel sphere, Green Lantern. If you're a Green Lantern fan, I feel sorry for you when it comes to the movies. Yeah. There's only one, and most people hate it. But if you're a Batman fan, you're eating up. Like there's so many different interpretations. So and everything has so many great things to offer. So like the Dark Knight does certain things best, and Batman 89 does certain things best, and the Batman does certain things best, and my ideal version is something that just combines everything into one. But even then, that's not necessarily going to top the nostalgia I have for 89 or the fond memories I have of, or you and I both have of sitting in the theater watching The Dark Knight and seeing this performance from Heath Ledger. Like,
yes. The Batman obviously is the best like attempt at showing the detective side.
Yeah,
that's what it definitely is like number one in that department. And I did like the tone of it and everything. It did have some issues like we've talked about ad nauseum, but Kevin Smith, he said he didn't really like the Batman that much. He needed to see it a few more times. This was his first impressions before he really like started to like it, he said, or something like that. But he said he's still interested in seeing like Reeves' second outing. He thinks that Reeves just needed like a second go at this to really nail what he's trying to do. And maybe that's us fans being overly hopeful, but I think maybe there's something to that at the same time. And I think most of us are pretty interested in seeing what Reeves will do with Clayface or whoever the fuck he's gonna do in the next one.
Yeah. So yeah, me too on that. But yeah, again, like it's one of those where it's like, well, I do like that one a lot too, but would I crown that one yet? It hasn't really made the same cultural impact at all so far. We'll see if he knocks it out of the park in the second one or so. Like with Begins, you could see that there was already cultural impact even before Dark Knight because everyone decided let's do a dark and gritty reboot. It was like the first of the dark and gritty reboots, so like that was still an influence and stuff. But like it kind of feels like Batman was really solid. People liked it. Our fan base seemed to like it, and we're looking forward to the next one. But maybe it's just because the era it was released in, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's had. There's like a specialness that it didn't quite have that the others have had when it came to the influence of what comes afterwards. And again, that could just be because it's released in the height of all these superhero movies coming out, where like it doesn't really get an opportunity to have that chance.
I think that's mainly what it is, man.
I think so too.
and then it's being kind of sidelined to Elseworlds midway through. So, which is not a bad thing at all, but it's like, all the shakeup, and it was shot during the middle of COVID, like in the middle of 2020, they're shut down due to the pandemic and shit midway through. It's just fucking wild. It's fucking insane.
It's an insane time. But there we go. Rambo Roberto, I hope you're happy.
Let us know.
Dark Knight sucks. No.
Let us know if you did you want the absolute kind of best, or like our gut, like personal favorite? Like, let us know if you could comment again. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, but I think it's been pretty apparent what our favorites have been, given what we cover on here as well. Yeah. So I think you guys kind of already know. Like, I feel like if we give our listing, most people would be like, I figured. I don't think there's going to be any shockers.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. But who knows? Over to the shoutouts.
Okay, man, here we are again. So I want to thank Slight Rebellion off Madison, Meteor P, Michael W, Bruce K, Tita, Sketchcraft, Kyle B, Darren P, Devin, Titbout, Renee V, and JPF, and the people above them and below them, and the other supporters as well, everybody up here on the board. Thank you. We're filling up the board quite nicely. Thank you, everybody, for staying with us after all these years. And, well, we've told you about our friends, and we'd like you to do us a favor.
We want you to tell all your friends about it.